Terrence Ogden, great to see you again, man.
Stefan, good to see you, buddy.
Last time I talked to you, you were heading out skiing, but we had you went skiing about 2 weeks after we finished the Immortal 32 Ruck, and in my mind, because I knew how my feet and my shins felt, I was like, oh man, those ski boots, man, those aren't gonna feel so good. How'd it go? Was it all
It
right?
went well. That's the worst part of skiing is those boots, man. It's like I don't go skiing enough to switch over to snowboarding, but like those boots and snowboarding are so appealing after walking around in those ski boots.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And after 75 miles, man, feet get a little rough, so they must not have felt too good in those boots.
Yeah, they
But
get tender.
you know, we completed. You kind of led us through the Immortal 32 Ruck beginning of March, so we finished up at the Alamo on Texas Independence Day. Um, just give everybody who's listening an idea of what exactly is the Immortal 32.
So the Immortal 32 Rock, it started out, I wanted to do something hard for Texas Independence Day. And originally I was going to walk from Wimberley, Texas to Gonzales, where the first shots of the Texas Revolution were. And I went there to scout it out, and I found out they don't do anything for Texas Independence Day, but I found out about the Immortal 32. And the Immortal 32, during the Texas Revolution, William Travis sent out a call for reinforcements, and the only people to answer it were 32 guys from the Gonzales Ranging Company. And
Wow.
the Gonzales Ranging Company, they eventually turned into what's known as the Texas Rangers, and they were the law of the land. And they got the call, and they went to their leader's house, George Kimball, and we stopped at his house
You
along the
did.
route.
Yep.
And they asked him what to do. George said, "We know exactly what to do." So they suited up and rode to the Alamo knowing that they were going to die. And I thought that was just an incredible story. That I mean, I'm an eighth generation Texan, and I'd never heard the story about those guys. I'm like, why is history just forgotten about these guys? So I knew that that was my calling right there. It's like, all right, we're gonna have to do this. We're gonna walk from Gonzales to the Alamo, following the path of the Immortal 32 the best we can. And it's 75 miles long. We start at 2 o'clock in the morning. The whole endeavor takes about anywhere. The best time we ever got was me and one other guy, and we did it in 27 hours. The bigger the group, the longer it takes. And every time I've done it with the large group, we've ranged from 33 to 36 hours. So, and it's nonstop. We don't sleep and we take breaks, but they're minimal just because you have to. And it's a, it's a, it's every bit a physical challenge, but I would say it's more so a mental challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you said you were looking for something hard to do, and this was kind of a calling. What is it that got Terrence Ogden to lead 24 of us down the highways of Texas on a 75-mile rock? What got you to that point? What in your life led you to that point?
So some of this will come back to my past. And my past is I'm clean and sober 22 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was addicted to heroin, crack cocaine, and spent a lot of my 20s in and out of jails. And I finally got clean and sober, and there was this one guy that like was inspirational for that. His name was Kenny Baker, and Kenny took. And I knew Kenny was the real deal. He was a bank robber, did a lot of time in Leavenworth, got out, and I knew that something was working for him. And so I started hanging with him, and I was like, maybe if I do what he does, I'll get what he's got. And Kenny introduced me into fitness, eating right. We would box in his backyard, beat the snot out of each other, throw a steak on the grill, and
That's awesome.
eat. And the camaraderie that came from that, it was like it was real. And after some time, Kenny developed cancer and died. And I felt like I'd lost like my rock. And at that time, I had gotten to this point to where it's like if I didn't want to do something, I pursued it and went and did more of it. and found out what it really was. And I always hated running, and I still really don't enjoy running, but so I pursued running, and I got to the point where I was doing ultra marathon trail runs in the mountains, and I did that for quite a few years, and then I broke away from it. So I found, like, for myself, by pushing past my comfort zones is where I find out who I really am, and like a saying I like to say, my life begins where my comfort zone ends. And
I like that.
I was always looking for something hard to do for Texas Independence Day to celebrate my Texas heritage. And that fell right into my lap. And the first year that we did it, I have a competitive background, and I did it with this other guy, Keith Busby. We worked out at a CrossFit gym. It was his gym, a CrossFit gym here in Wimberley, Texas. And I pitched it to him. I knew he was crazy enough to do it with me. So we went and just did it. And that first year we did it, I remember, because when the sun goes down is when all these mind games start.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
all fun. It's a country stroll, the first 30 miles of it.
Yeah.
But that sun comes down, you could testify to this. It gets real because the group
Yes.
separates.
Yeah.
You're not talking as much. All you have is what's going on inside your head. And me and Keith had started to separate, and like the competitive side of me was like, and I'm just gonna be honest, I was getting angry. I was like, this dude needs to hurry up, man, because I can just hunker down. I know how to get into the zone and just go knock this thing out. And we separated, and I looked back and I saw his headlamp, and it was way back there. He was probably a quarter mile, half mile behind me. So I turned around. I was like, man, I gotta go get this dude. I remember walking up to him pissed off, and then I got to him and something just switched. And I knew he was in a bad place, and I knew that he was struggling where he was at. And I've experienced that. I know what that feels like. He was at his wall. He's meeting his demons at that point. And I was able to talk to him and talk him off the ledge, so to speak. And then from that, it was just something clicked. It went from like being pissed off to like, all right, I'm going to help this guy out. And from that is what I knew what this whole thing was about. It's not a race. It's not about, it's a team event. It's about one man helping another man get through whatever hard spot he's going through. And that's what started it, and it was like the next year was like, if we don't do this again, it's dead in the waters. And so we did it again. And that year I rolled my ankle at mile 30, and I could barely walk when we went to Seguin, and I couldn't stand up on my own. Luckily there was a Walgreens, and I got an ankle wrap and some tape and just taped the hell out of it and just grunted through the rest of it. But without it had flip-flopped. Without Keith, I couldn't have finished that year. And that just solidified that the camaraderie that comes from doing hard things together is a big deal.
Yeah. You taught me that lesson on this ruck during the night. A few of us were like, forget it. I'm just putting the hammer down. I'm getting to the next spot. And let's be honest, you do a lot more than 75 miles because you go up and down the line, man. You're retracing steps and coming back. And you came flying up, you caught up to us and you said, hey, it's not what it's about. And it was, where that really sunk home, the team piece of it, was when we did that last mile to the Alamo. I looked around and I said, I'm so happy every single one of these people who started with us is with us to see the end,
No kidding.
You want those guys with you. So like you said, yeah, during the night, you kind of get a little myopic maybe, but the team piece of it is so huge. So yeah, you're speaking my language really. And you mentioned the CrossFit gym, comfort zone, pushing yourself past your comfort zone, being part of a community, teamwork. That's all stuff that's, we talk about it in CrossFit, but unless you've been in a gym and done the workouts with the people, you don't really know how that feels. But you know how that feels
Absolutely.
on the ruck. All right, the legend of Terrence grew a little bit. It was said that after one of the years, so it's 5 years now that you've done the Immortal 32. After one of those years, it was during the Open, and so the next day following the ruck, you did an open workout. That's what they
Yeah.
were saying. So,
And it happened to have running involved in it.
of course it did.
And I remember seeing that on the board, and I was like, son of a bitch, I don't want to run. And somebody joked was like, oh, I bet you're going to run that. And I was like, all right, gauntlet's been thrown down. Now I got to run it. So I ran it. And I don't remember the exact workout, but the feet were tender.
Oh, I bet. I bet. How do you train? Like, I know you do jujitsu, and you know, obviously rucking is a big part. Are you still using CrossFit? Do you still train with CrossFit to fill out your whole fitness
I
regimen?
do. I go to a CrossFit gym in Dripping Springs, CrossFit Second Wave.
Awesome.
And the CrossFit workouts are great. I mean, typically what I do is I pretty much train every day. A lot of times I'll take one day off, but my whole concept is I'm gonna always stay ready instead of go and get ready. So anything that comes at me, I'm always let's go, you know.
Awesome.
And my typical week, like a Monday, I'll hit the gym in the morning or I'll do a ruck and then jujitsu at lunch or in the evening. And that's pretty much like I'm in jujitsu 3 days a week. I'm working out probably another 3 days of the week. And pretty much every day I try to do at least a 5K ruck. And every Saturday morning, I started a community ruck here in Wimberley. We meet up at 6 a.m. Downtown Wimberley, Texas, and we do just under 5 miles. It's about an hour and a half, and come back and fellowship, have breakfast, and blah blah blah.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that idea of a physical ready state. I actually trained. I trained. I didn't want to embarrass myself or other people when I went on this. I didn't want to, and I didn't really know what I was getting because 75 miles is. I think my longest ruck had been 5 before,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of unknowns. Did you train for this, or are you just ready to go?
I do train. I do up my mileage, and a lot of times what I'll do when I'm training. Right now, I'm training for a ruck in June. I'm doing an 80K in Normandy, celebrating the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which
Oh,
will be
that's awesome.
it's a go ruck event. It'll be an awesome event.
Okay.
And what I typically do is I stick with that. I try to do a 5K every morning. And when I have a big event coming, I'll increase that mileage. And typically, like most of my rucks, I have a 30-pound plate that I put in my bag, weighs about 5, so it's about 35 pounds. And what I'll do when I have an event coming up is I'll increase that weight like 5 pounds every week till it gets to about 50 pounds. After 50 pounds, it the
Cool.
you're not getting a whole lot more out of adding the weight. The other thing I like to do is I don't set distances, I set time, and I measure the distance, and I can see what my pace is, and if I can pick up the pace. Like if I'm doing a 5K, if I can do it in X amount of time, I know where I'm at and I know what
Gotcha.
I need to increase. And the the weight really doesn't play as much of a factor. It's all condition in the foot. And most people, including myself, we focus from the knee and above. And the foot is like that's we'll build these Ferraris and we'll put some crappy tires on, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And your foot is what's always going to break down, and then in strengthening the foot and the calf is and your joints is essential. It's something I do focus on when I'm training for a bigger event.
Are you doing special exercises for that, or just the mileage you're putting in?
Mileage, I'll do a lot of legs, a lot of deadlifts. I mean,
Yeah.
I like I was saying, I focus below the foot. I will do, which is kind of weird, is once a week I'll do a 2 mile barefoot walk on
It's
gravel
awesome.
or decomposed granite to toughen the foot. And a lot of this is kind of funny, man. I have a 14-year-old boy, and I, I've always parented him, let him just do his thing, and when he was little, the kid would never wear shoes. You could not keep shoes on him. And this kid had and has the toughest feet
Wow.
ever. And watching what he can do with his feet is like, okay, man, that made me look more into foot health and strengthening the foot. We did it was 90 miles on the Pecos River paddle and back in August. And the rock out there is almost like coral.
Yeah.
And the dude did the
Ooh.
whole thing barefoot. And it's like I
That's
did
insane.
portions of it, but my feet got too beat up. I was like, man,
Oh,
I
that's
got to put
crazy.
shoes on. So
That's
I
awesome.
mean, there's a lot to the foot, you know.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that training, and you got the physical fitness from CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu as the foundation, and then you're hitting both ends. You got the weight in the pack, but you're also going for speed, which is a different animal when you're rucking, and then just for distance. And yeah, I see how that blends together well.
Yeah. And I will also, I don't run with the ruck. I try not to. I will every now and then.
Yeah.
And a couple times I had to on the when we do events if I need to get somewhere fast. But if I'm gonna do some running, some weighted running, I'll use a vest. It's running with all that weight on your back can hurt your
Oh
back.
man.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that balancing on your back's not good for you, man.
Yeah, no, not at all. One of the things that preparing for this event, it turned me kind of into a gear nerd. Like I was checking people's packs, I was checking with footwear, I was online seeing what I should wear. I had no idea. I was kind of happy. One thing, I had the toe socks. That's all I wore was toe socks the whole time I was doing this because I didn't want blisters, and they worked. I noticed you're using Go Ruck primarily. You had boots. You had the Mac V1s, didn't you?
Yeah, the first 2 years I did the event, I wore some Ultra, some Trail Run, some Superiors that I used to have,
Mm-hmm.
and great shoe. After I rolled my ankle that one year, I switched to a Mac V1, and they actually sponsored us and gave us some gear and some
Oh,
boots,
nice.
and that Mac V1 has been my go-to boot since that. And I mean, they're super lightweight as far as the boot goes. It's almost like a trail shoe with a gator built into it.
Oh, cool.
And so it keeps any debris from getting out. It gives minimal ankle support. And I've been a real big fan of that Mac V1.
Yeah, and it was your pack, was your ruck a Go Ruck?
Correct.
Yeah.
The pack I've used for 4 of the Immortal 32s. It's one of the original Ruckers. It's probably about 6 years, 7 years old. And
Nice.
I have other Go Ruck bags, but that one's kind of like nostalgic for me for doing my events. So that's my go-to on events.
Oh, nice. Well, Jimmy Letchford, who's the president of Go Ruck's a old-time CrossFitter, one of the original instructors, one of the original members of the community, and I sent him a couple pictures while we were doing it, and he was loving it. Now he's
Awesome.
all over it. So real cool. Um, so the Immortal 32 is the flagship event of Project Grip, which is
Correct.
your charity.
Correct.
And tell me about the whole goal with Project Grit, how it brings these events together. It's also raising money.
So yeah, Project Grit, like you were saying, originally it was the Mortal 32 Ruck. And I have all these other ideas for different types of rucks. Excuse me. And so I formed Project Grit. And the idea behind Project Grit is primarily all my events are ultra distance rucks. And but it's more than just that. My whole thing is like I battled mediocrity, you know. Like I got clean and sober. I got the wife, I got the kids, I'm living indoors now, and you know, got everything together. And I got to this point in my life that was like, now what? And that's when like I'm an adventure seeker, always have been, and you know, and I was battling that mediocrity. That's when I started doing challenging things. So the idea behind Project Grit is to get people off their couch, off their ass, off the screens, and outdoors, doing challenging yourself. Is if you're too out of shape to slap a heavy bag, just go for a walk. And I know that like mental health is another thing for me. And I know when I'm not exercising or eating right, everything goes haywire. And with by going outside and doing hard things, that it brings something out of me that is it's an incredible, and I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had those experiences. So that's what Project Grit's about, is helping people get to that level. But my events are all ultra distance events in the rucks. The two that I have on the books is the Immortal 32 Ruck, and then last October we did the inaugural run for the Top of Texas 8 Peak Challenge. It's in Guadalupe Mountains National
That's a
Park.
different beast too. This is different.
Yeah, this was so the tallest peak in the state of Texas is Guadalupe Peak, and there we started with 7 and we finished with 4. It was 8 peaks, like a little over 10,000 feet elevation gain, 27 miles in distance. 9 miles of the 27 miles was a bushwhack, so there is no trail. You're just blazing your own through thick brush. And we were going for a sub 24, but we did it in 24 hours and 20 minutes. We started at 2 a.m. and we finished at 2:20. We got back to base camp at 2:20, and it was an incredible event. It was so Immortal 32 is more of a mental and physical challenge. I would say Top of Texas is more of a physical than mental challenge. And one of the kickers on that one is there is no water out there.
That's a big
So
deal.
what you start with is what you have for the whole event. So you have to strategize your water intake, and you're going to start off heavy. You got nutrition and water. That's about all, and extra socks. That's all I carried in my bag. And I had 8 liters of water, bunch of food, and I finished with about a half a liter of water. So I nailed it on the.
Good planning right there.
Yeah, we'll be doing that one again in October. I got 2 other ones that are almost ready to go live. I got one coming up in Palo Duro, and I got one from Santa Fe to Chamayo in New Mexico, which is going to be a pretty cool one too.
Is that the one you showed me the pictures of?
Yes.
All right. Well, I won't put you on the spot to have you unveil them on here if you're not ready. But yeah, though that's awesome. Do you have the distances mapped out for those ones, or?
So the Palo Duro one is going to be called the Way of the Comanche. The history in that one was the Battle of Red River, the last battle between the U.S. Cavalry and the Comanches happened in Palo Duro Canyon, and so we're gonna go to Palo Duro. It'll be a 50K, and I don't know if it's gonna be a 2 loop. It'll probably be a 2 loop through the canyon, and the Chamayo one will be a 50K as well. I already got that route planned out. It's 30 miles, and both of them are super scenic and going to be really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. How was the downhill portion? Down, you said 10,000 feet of elevation. That's a lot of downhill too.
So
That's got to tear you up.
It was the same downhill, and the thing that was deceiving is you see the peaks, and then you have to go down to the valley, and the thing that was deceiving on a lot of it, you're like, oh, that's going to be a piece of cake. And you'll see what you think are bushes, and then you get down to it and you realize they're 40, 50-foot trees, and you got to climb down a cliff to get down to the creek to go up the other side. The downhill, so basically, man, it's a quad burner, and you just have to be strategic as how you do it, because that's the other thing in that one is there's not a really way to have an aid station out there. And if you get hurt, you're kind of SOL. And because if you roll your ankle or something, no matter where you bail out, it's pretty much the same distance back to base camp, and it's not an easy trek.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. When we did the Immortal 32, there was 2 I mean, you were always there for an encouraging word and asking how everybody was doing. But when we kicked off, you gave a little bit of the history of the ruck, and you kind of set the stage for how we were gonna do it. You know, it's there's nothing that can stop you from getting to the end except yourself. It's like you will get uncomfortable, you will have doubts creep into your mind, but if you just keep pushing forward and you don't quit, we'll make sure you get there. That was right at the beginning. I was fired up. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd walked over from my hotel. I was like, "This is awesome." That was a great thing. And then we got, I don't know if it's the halfway point, but there's a certain point at the Mortal 32. It's the middle of the night, and there's a stretch, I think it's 8 or 9 miles long, where historically that's where most of the people who bow out, that's where you lose them. And so you just gave us a heads up. You said, this is it right now. So however you're feeling, knuckle down, get right and get to the end of this, because when you get through this little stretch, we don't lose people after this. So it's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel before the tunnel was going to end.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like you take a certain amount of responsibility for the people doing the ruck. You take care of them, and so just the relationships you build from this, from people you meet at 2 a.m. They showed up to do this event, taking them through the event, and then afterwards, I'm sure you stay in touch with many of them, and you see a big change in their lives that they tell you about after doing an event like this.
100%. Yeah, there's a saying that has inspired me a lot, and it's the meaning of life is to show another man his, and that's kind of like the core of all of this, and it's like
we don't
me, I mean, I know exactly what to expect. I know where the hard parts are, and I know how to get through all of that. And I'm not immune. That's the soul crushing stretch right there. It's 8 miles. It's from mile 40 to mile 50, somewhere in there. And I'm not immune to that either. I mean, I'm just being brutally honest. This year, I remember in the middle of that stretch, thinking this is the last. I'm going to start doing support after this. Sucks, and same mind games. I'm not immune to that either. I know what I mean. I also joke around. The cool thing about doing this for 5 years, you know what to expect. The thing that sucks about doing it for 5 years is you know what to expect.
Right. Yeah.
And watching people get through that hard stuff and come out to the other side is what lifts me up. And to see and watch people go through the pain, go through the suffering, and then overcome it and get to the other side is just like, it fires me up. And the camaraderie that's built, I mean, it's I've never been in combat. I've done jujitsu, and I know the camaraderie that comes with jujitsu. When you go through hard things together, it builds a bond that you can't break. And I can only imagine that it's very similar to, probably more so in combat. But I all the people that have done my ruck, that I consider them brothers and sisters, and it's like it's a bond that can't be broken. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's how we all felt when we finished. I might not be in steady contact with the people I did it with, but I could, if when we run into each other again, it's immediate. That bond that we built doing that. It was awesome. Go ahead.
I'll throw this out there, and it's funny that like something that I recognize is the goal is to get to the Alamo. And I'm not going to tell you, when you arrive at the Alamo, that feeling is like amazing and fulfilling, but it's a drop in the bucket. And it's not what it, like everything that you just went through is what you remember. Like you barely remember getting to the Alamo, but you remember all the trials and tribulations, and that's what this whole thing about it. It makes that, and I'm not trying to sound cheesy, that saying is it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And that's what that ruck builds in each and every one of us that do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I experienced that. and I know everybody I was with and all of us we we experienced that throughout it, and we're very proud to get to the end. But like you said, it's looking back on when you look back on what you just traveled. It makes you feel good about what you just traveled. Definitely, definitely. Um, we don't talk about the Buddy Challenge coin, the
Awesome.
Buddy
So
Check
yeah,
Challenge coin.
so I got
We don't.
that right there is a Buddy Check Challenge coin.
Mhm.
And what this is,
We don't.
so like I had some real solid dudes in my life that I thought had, everything was going really strong for. And then you find out, they took their life. And it's like, geez, what the hell, man? I thought he had it together. Was there something I could have done to help him? And I know, I mean, I grew up with some hard asses and I was, taught to be a man and that John Wayne shit, which is good to a certain degree, but I
We
never
don't.
knew how to talk to another guy about shit that was going on inside me. And then that was the thing with Kenny Baker. Kenny was the type of guy that you could pull up in the middle of the night with the body in the truck and he's, where are we going, dude? Let's go.
Yeah, I got a shovel.
And everybody needs that guy in their life.
Yeah.
And so I started the Buddy Check Challenge coin, and what it is like
We don't.
like
We
I
don't.
come to you and I ask you how you're doing. So the rules that this is the rules of the game. I come to you to see how you're doing, and I
We
can
don't.
read your character pretty well. And if you don't seem to be, you just give me some lip service. Say, oh, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Nah, bro, what's really going on, man? And how can I help you? And letting someone know that they're not alone in what they're going through. And so it's you check on your buddy. If he's doing right, you give him the coin. And the idea between the coins is to know you're not alone. And from there,
We
you
don't.
go and you post a picture online with the coin and you tag official Project Grit on social media. And then from there, you go to our website and you make a $10 donation to support our cause. And then you have 48 hours to go find a buddy and give
We
the
don't.
coin to them. So the idea behind it is that coin never stays in one place for too long. It's always circulating, and it creates, and in a perfect world, it creates a network of guys helping other guys, gals, people helping other people. And yeah, man, and hopefully that, when
We
if
don't.
that time comes when someone's having those hard times, they know and that they can, hey, I can call on Stefan and
Yeah.
and we can work through this, and I don't have to make that ultimate decision.
Yeah. No, I remember getting the coin. You gave everyone a coin who did the ruck. We were, I don't know, 800 meters from the Alamo. We got the coin, and it was really starting to hit me at that point what a team effort this has been, because we stayed
Yeah.
together for the last little bit. It's not the best neighborhood in San Antonio that you
It's a little
finished
rough.
through. So we stayed together, and the feeling of this was a team. This was really a team thing. Hit me. It's just everything you're doing meshes so well with the. I've been part of the CrossFit community. I think I started CrossFit back in 2003, and back then I was like, I found my people, and again,
We
same
don't.
feeling here is like everything you stand for, everything that comes together on your events, the Immortal 32. I'm sure the other ones is embrace challenge, discomfort, reject mediocrity, push yourself, and then the teamwork piece. It's just it. I'd love for everybody I know to experience it. So I talk to everybody about these events. When I tell them 75 miles, they're like, "What?" But man, that's the point, really. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's awesome to be part of something like this. Now, this is a charity, and you're raising money. Who are you raising money for?
So we've been like last year, 2 years we've been raising money for Patriots Hall in Dripping Springs, and Patriots Hall
We don't.
is
We don't.
they do have a VFW hall there, but it's a community for veterans to go and experience the camaraderie. go through whatever they're going through with each other. And it's the same thing. It's building groups, building teams, and letting people know they're not alone. And they've been breaking ground out here in Dripping Springs, I think, for about the past year. The VFW hall there is opened up, but they have a grand hall they're working on. There's going to be an obstacle course. There's going to be
Wow.
grill stations, a big place for people to bring their family to. So it's a really good cause, and I support them wholeheartedly.
No,
We don't-
absolutely, absolutely, and I definitely want people to understand the value of the events and the cause and everything here. And you know, I think
don't-
recently a book called The Comfort Crisis has been making the rounds, at least in
Mark Leaster.
yeah, absolutely. And this is really how I got into this. Was I met you at a small ruck we did over Thanksgiving near Austin, or in Austin, and a friend of a friend, so Matt Loden, who's a CrossFit legend, introduced us, and you mentioned this ruck, and it's stuck in my mind. And to me, it was the perfect. I think the words misogi or misogi. It was the perfect example, and I started
Absolutely.
thinking about it right away. So I have my patch right here, and you know, I want to tell you that you gave me a challenge and an opportunity, and I met a couple friends, Mike Martinez, who's a longtime CrossFit community guy, and Josh Murphy, who runs the CrossFit Foundation, and you allowed us to come together and experience this with a group of awesome people, and I'm about as proud of this as anything I've done in my life. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Awesome.
We don't-
There's only one way to get one, and you deserved every bit of that, man.
Man, yep. And I'm so glad you got to work that hard, because that's what, man, it's so meaningful to get one of these, because you got to put in for it.
Absolutely.
So good. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know coming up you're going to be taking your level 1, your CrossFit level 1.
Yeah, April 28th at one of Matt Loden's classes. Yeah, here
man.
out in Round Rock.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's kind of an honor to have you taking that course. It means a lot that you're going to be part of that crew right there.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you're going to crush it. You can you can teach them some stuff about rucking at lunchtime. For sure. That's good. That's going to be a blast. And I really think in the CrossFit community, there's a great connection. I think rucking fits right in with CrossFit.
Absolutely.
I'm getting a little older. We're all getting a little older. I don't love to run. Running tears me up, but rucking is that kind of in between running and walking. That's perfect.
We don't.
Yeah, I know. My wife, we do rucks together all the time, and it's helped out our relationship substantially. And I know for myself, when I just go out for a run, you know, my whole thing also is I ditch the headphones, and I think that's key. You know,
Yeah.
we're always looking for distractions to not have to deal with whatever we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And by ditching the headphones, I come up with the most creative things. And when my wife or my friend or anybody comes with me on a ruck, that it's like it creates bonds, you know. And
We don't.
I can't speak enough about it. And you know, I'm 53, so you know, my brother actually got into the Hard Rock 100, and which is a real hard event to get into. And I told him if he got in, I'd go out there and pace run with him. So I'm gonna have to start running again. And
oh man,
I'm reluctantly not looking forward to it, but it'll be good for me. That's the only time I told him I'd go back to running. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
do you think running helps with rucking and vice versa? Rucking helps with running. So you'll be in pretty good
Sure.
shape for this? Yeah.
Sure. My problem is my knees, but
We don't.
running absolutely, and I do incorporate some running into my training for rucking events. But anything that sucks, man, is like the whole thing is I go and do the things that suck, you know, until they become not sucking.
We don't.
Yeah. That's a pretty solid way to live life. You're gonna achieve a lot that way.
Oh,
we don't
absolutely. We find out who we really are when we do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Man, I really appreciate your time. I want to make sure everybody knows how to find you. So officialprojectgrit.com.
Right. If you go
And
to officialprojectgrid.com, shoot me an email. I'll mail you a buddy coin.
absolutely. And very prominently on that website is the sign up for the Immortal 32. So I definitely recommend people sign up for that and the other events that are going to be coming. Man, this could be a year round a calendar of events going on pretty soon.
I have about 6 on the books right now that are, well, I have 2 on the books. I have 6 that are on the working out stages. So the idea is to put quite a few out a year.
Man, that's exciting. That's exciting. You're doing great work. You're improving lives. You're saving lives, and I really can't thank you enough for everything you're doing. And thank you for the opportunity to participate. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for the opportunity to come here and talk with you, Stefan.
You got it. I'm sure we'll do it again.
Indeed.
All right. Have a good one, man.
You too, bud.